What is up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of The Danny Show. I'm your host, Daniel Cody, and this is where I do commentary and reviews on all things wrestling. And before I get started, I want to thank all the viewers that have been watching over the past number of weeks. I really appreciate it. Also, I did not know yesterday was Rey Mysterio's birthday. Had I known his birthday was coming up, I would have prepared a top 10 countdown. Oh my goodness, I did not know. I'm so sorry for that. But either way, happy belated birthday to the legendary biggest little man in WWE history, Rey Mysterio. And speaking of Rey Mysterio, on this day, him and RVD defeated the team of Kenzo Suzuki and Rene Dupree at Armageddon in my backyard of Atlanta, former backyard of Atlanta. But that's not the only thing. Speaking of which, this took place at Armageddon 2004, the same year where we saw John Cena beat the crap out of Jesus, bodyguard of Carlito, as well as where we saw the fatal four-way match between JBL, The Undertaker, Booker T, and the late Eddie Guerrero. Fun fact, both men are from Texas, but JBL retained the championship with a little bit of help from Heidenreich from stopping The Undertaker once again from winning the WWE Championship. But that's not the only thing that happened on this very date and on this very Sunday. Before Armageddon 2004, there was Armageddon 1999 that happened on this date and on this very day of the week also. And that's what I mainly want to talk about. So let's get into that. One of the matches that happened that night was Kane versus XPOP in a steel cage match. Now, long story short, XPOP and Kane were tag team partners during the mid part of 1999. But after losing to The Undertaker and Big Show at SummerSlam, somewhere down the line they disintegrated and became rivals. And it became even more deeper when Kane had a girlfriend named Tori, not to be confused with Tori Wilson. But this match started off in the steel cage, and X-Pac would target Tori, who came out with Kane looking very provocative. Kane would come out to defend her, and just like February earlier that year with Stone Cold and McMahon, the cage fight starts on the outside and then gets on the inside. And so, as interesting as the match might be by itself, the thing that I believe Joey Styles would hate is number one, they're telling a bunch of innuendo stories, more so Burger King nasty Jerry Lawler, who got more attention. Did you guys see how that woman wanted an autograph not from Nikki ASH, but from Jerry the King Lawler? Thankfully, he's not a nasty commentator anymore like he was back in the day, because this time he was just nasty. Ugh. Guys that age should be that nasty. But either way, Joey Styles, as he said in his pipe bomb in '06, hated how WWE told stories during matches. And they did it again. More so Burger King Jerry Lawler for talking about innuendos, inappropriate innuendos, but it was PG-13 at the time. But the match continued, and the New Age Outlaws came out to help X-Pac, and X-Pac would give an X Factor onto the steel chair that the New Age Outlaws gave, and then cuffed Kane, and Tori tried to defend Kane, only to get X Factored by X-Pac himself. The things people got away with back then. Shush. But either way, Kane must have got really angry about the fact that Tori was harmed by X-Pac, because he broke out and took X-Pac down. And one thing, that was the first time we would see one of Kane's most iconic moments, where he flew off the top of the cell, giving a flying clothesline to X-Pac, tombstone pile driver, 1, 2, 3, ding dong. In the words of Bailey, Kane wins. Don't mess with with Kane's woman. Speaking of women, God rest her soul, China, one of the first women to compete in the men's division, won the Intercontinental Championship a couple of months prior from Jeff Jarrett, who, as Jim Ross acknowledged in the upcoming match, is no longer with WWE at the time, went to WCW after China kicked his butt out. But either way, never underestimate China. And Chris Jericho learned the hard way in an amazing match that they had at Survivor Series 1999, in which China retained the WWE Championship. So there was a rematch at Armageddon, and I will say 2 points. Number one, Jim Ross mentioned wrestlers underestimating China and no longer being a part of the World Wrestling Federation. Jeff Jarrett is what he's alluding to. Secondly, China and Miss Kitty look great together, and I don't mean that in a lustful fashion, although Jerry Lawler would. Fun fact, Jerry Lawler married Miss Kitty. Well, if Trish Stratus had came to WWE sooner, he probably would have married her. But either way, just kidding. Either way, the match started off very physical and aggressive, and it was an even fight in the beginning of the match until Jericho took control by targeting China's injured thumb, which was injured by Chris Jericho. Somewhere down the line, they began to trade a lot of near falls, and the match began to go back to being even. However, Chris Jericho would lock in the walls of Jericho, and China, despite great effort, would tap out, and Chris Jericho would win his first of many Intercontinental Championships. And he would have first of many runs. After the match, China would go to the back to extend her hand to Chris Jericho, and Jericho, on his guard, yet still a little egotistical, but on his guard, accepts. China and Chris Jericho got each other's respect that night. So, Chris Jericho does not have to have a gender change, if that is appropriate to say. He doesn't need to have a gender change because he said he was going to do that if he lost, but he got his redemption. But hey, don't underestimate a woman. That's all I'm saying. And China was one of the best of them. So God rest her soul. Wish she could have seen the Hall of Fame last year. Or no, that was a couple of years back. But either way, moving forward. Our next match is the New Age Outlaws versus the Rock and Sock Connection, because you can't have an event in the Attitude Era without The Rock. You just can't do it. I know Mr. McMahon and Triple H were the main event, but you can't have a show without The Rock. You just can't. So, the match starts off with Mankind and Road Dogg. And during that match, a little bit later on, The Rock would get tagged in, and that was not a cheap pop. So then after that, Billy Gunn would get in, and they would fight because they are no strangers to each other. Backstory is that on an episode of SmackDown in 1999, Road Dogg and Billy Gunn had a reunion, and that same night, the same night that Triple H was running a gauntlet, they would win the tag team championships, pinning Mankind with the Famouser, now known from Dolph Ziggler. But either way, this was a match where The Rock got in, and before Billy Gunn could get his shirt off, The Rock started beating him blindly, and that was funny. And then we would eventually see both men fight, including The Rock and Billy Gunn on the outside, and they would fight in the crowd, which I loved about the Attitude Era, is that everyone used to fight in the crowd. I just really enjoyed that. So back to the ring, The Rock is isolated for a little bit, and Mankind gets tagged in. And there was a particular segment that I found hilarious, and that's when the Road Dogg was trying to do this finishing move that Rhea Ripley is known for doing now, but he tried to do a slam, and during the slam, he got him in a position and did what is called doggy style. And this is the part where R-Truth comes in and says, I don't even know if that's PG. But either way, That happens, and he ends up getting a mule kick downstairs and the dog pound. So, either way, don't taunt with mankind. So the match continues, and then The Rock gets in, and before The Rock could finish off Billy Gunn after a rock bottom, Al Snow, who had recently, for whatever reason, turned heel, turning on Mankind, who they were partners at one time, but either way, Al Snow comes in and ruins the match for the Rock and Sock connection and gets the whole team disqualified. So the Rock and Sock won by disqualification, but the titles can only be won by pinfall or submission. Therefore, The Rock got his stage of revenge by rock bottoming everyone, Road Dogg, Billy Gunn, and eventually Al Snow, and going for the people's elbow. Now, with that being said, let's get down to the main event. So this whole thing started with Triple H trying to get big. We have Mr. McMahon versus Triple H, and let me just say that was an excellent opening, an excellent intro to Armageddon with this Mr. McMahon and Triple H. Take my soul, take all this, but don't take this. Not tonight, not my daughter. That was a great promo. That was a great opening. Awesome. But either way, this match was between those two. It was a no holds barred, falls count anywhere. Triple H came out with a sledgehammer with Stephanie McMahon at ringside, who was recently drugged like Cosby's victims in Las Vegas and made to marry Triple H. So, or was that all just a hoax? But either way, he was in the match. You have Triple H versus Mr. McMahon. Mr. McMahon came out and threw powder in Triple H's face. And as Austin Theory learned on Raw recently, Mr. McMahon has hands. And he was boxing Triple H like a boxing match between Holyfield and Tyson. He was throwing blows. Mankind would come out with a grocery store cart full of weapons, trash cans, and kendo sticks, which he used all over Triple H. He just beat the crap out of Triple H. I mean, I've never seen Vince so competitive. But either way, he took Triple H to the limit. They fought in the crowd. God, I love 1999. They just fought in the crowd a lot. That's one of the things I love about the Attitude Era and 1999. They just fought in crowds a lot, and it was very entertaining. But during that fight, a lot of fans threw trash at Triple H. And Triple H tried twice to get momentum on his side. The first time it didn't work. McMahon kept fighting. The second time, he actually ended up getting some form of momentum and some form of control. The fight went on, and I say this a lot, but that match was definitely like Peter Griffin versus the Chicken, and Family Guy was just coming out around that time, ironically. So you have this match was just like Peter and the Chicken. It went all over the place. And so that match happened. It went into the arena garage, and then it went into the outside because Triple H had ran off and lured Mr. McMahon outside. And Mr. McMahon went outside in Fort Lauderdale, which was obviously a rainy day, which turned into a rainy night. And so while looking for Triple H had commandeered a car and tried to run over Mr. McMahon, which should have been hint number one that he was the guy responsible for running Austin over. But either way, he drove the car and missed Vince, and they ended up fighting outside, and you could hear some of the fans that didn't make it inside cheering from the outside. They ended up fighting in the arena and climbing up one of the entrance equipment towers. And they fought up there. Mr. McMahon ended up falling. But it wasn't as bad as what happened to Shane McMahon at SummerSlam 2000 or Backlash 2001. That was wow. But either way, somehow Vince refuses to stay down. He's bleeding, but he won't stay down. Triple H gets the mic and taunts Stephanie verbally and Mr. McMahon, and then goes to attack Mr. McMahon, knowing that he won't stay down. And so later on during the match, we see this. While Triple H is down in the ring, while Mr. McMahon, I apologize, was down in the ring, Triple H does the DX gesture, and instead of suck it, Mr. McMahon kicks it. And that which we all saw coming, because you were standing over Vince, and you never stand over an opponent with your legs spread. That is an open opportunity. You just don't do that. But either way, Mr. McMahon, I don't think that was a wrench. That was a pipe. He took a pipe to Triple H's ribs, and then he gets the sledgehammer. Stephanie McMahon comes in and offers to hit Triple H with the sledgehammer, but she hesitates, and McMahon pays because Triple H would take the hammer from Stephanie and hit Vince with it and go for the pin. And while Stephanie checks on Mr. McMahon, Triple H holds the hammer up like he's about to hit her, when actuality he wasn't. Why? Because as Stephanie looks at Triple H and then breaks a smile. And JR sold it so well when he said, when JR is shocked and upset, you know he is going to sell that thing so excellently. Now, I still think the one at WrestleMania 17 was better, but whenever there's a shocking plot twist, you gotta bring Jim Ross to call it, because he will call it well. And that's when we realized that Stephanie and Triple H were in this whole thing all along, and they hug it out. And that is the start of the McMahon Helmsley faction. And if you mess with them, you get your butt kicked or you get your butt fired. That was their ridiculous logo at the time. And that was the start of the heelless faction that no one could stand at the time, unless you were still somewhat of a DX fan. Wow. What an amazing plot twist, in the words of State Farm. What do you think about this event? What did you think of Armageddon? Let me know in the comment section below. That's all the time I have for you today, and I'll be back with another review on all things wrestling. Have a great day, everyone.